Hello photographers, and welcome to another episode of Digital Retro. This is yet another episode about the Nikon ZFC, and I really like this camera. I'm however still trying to get used to it and cope with its quirks sometimes, but yeah, I actually like this camera, and I decided to get the new lens, which is the 24-1.7, a 35mm equivalent for the DX system. And yeah, here are my thoughts about it. So the 24-1.7 came out recently, and it was kind of like an answer to the prayers of the DX users, which is the aps-c of the Nikon world. And this lens, I was hoping for this lens to come out when I bought the ZFC, because I'm a 35mm focal length shooter, and this is my favorite focal length. So I was longing for a native 35mm equivalent for the DX system, especially for the ZFC, which came out to be my, retro dream camera. This camera is actually really good in terms of, the design and the retro look. It's also very light if you just use it with the DX lenses from Nikon, which are made of plastic, by the way, but they made this combo really light. You can just operate it with one hand with no problem, even with the lack of grip on the ZFC. I still recommend to buy at least a half case like this, which helps you get a grip, a firm grip on the camera, so you won't actually drop it by accident. Yet this lens is very light and very and makes the whole camera very light and easy to operate. So I bought the 24-1.7 about 3 weeks ago, and I had a chance to shoot with it both on the street and do some portraits with it. I actually thought this lens will be my everyday lens for portraits and street, and so the ZFC is actually my everyday camera right now, and I'm using it with a 24-1.7, which turned out to be a really good lens with quite reliable autofocus, but I also have some issues with it. First one, I think the major one when I saw this lens was like, why Nikon didn't make the SE version? I mean, they made the 28mm 2.8 or 40 f2. The special edition was designed as a retro-looking lens which fit the ZFC. This lens complemented the ZFC retro look, and they were full-frame lenses. So I'm starting to think that Nikon made them, because of the ZF camera that's coming out these days. Why didn't they, continue to make these lenses for the ZFC, like the 24-1.7? The SE version would look much better. I mean, the standard version doesn't look, bad, but it's like It's kind of a modern lens. And if you put it on the retro looking camera like the ZFC, you kind of wish it was like more vintage built as well. Well, this lens is plastic as the 28 and 40 millimeter ones, and it's kind of hard to believe this lens is weather sealed because the plastic, especially on the front element, feels kind of like, a little soft. But the overall feel of the lens is not bad, even if it's plastic. It's really, the plastic feels, the high quality, even the lens is made in China. And I'm kind of like disappointed by the image quality. I thought this lens will be, sharper and will have much more detail while fully open, especially it's a 1.7 lens, it's not 1.4. If you compare it to like something from Fuji, like 23 f2, the Fuji is sharper. Even if you stop this lens to f2, it doesn't give you that contrasty and clear image. But anyway, this lens is really good one. It performs really good in terms of autofocus. But I would say there's a lot of vignetting for, especially for a lens like this. And if you stop it to like f2, it's still very visible. So you have to keep that in mind if you want to use this lens for landscape shots, for example. This lens is probably the best to use when you are out on the street and if you are looking for casual portraits with your family or on a vacation. So it's really good, but I think I expected more from this lens. I also kind of wish this was 1.4, not 1.7, to get that, better low light performance. There's actually a very little difference between 1.8 and 1.7. I'm just wondering why didn't they make the 1.4 version. So for me this lens is, it's actually a really good lens, especially if you consider the price. It's not very expensive and it's very light, so if you put it on the ZFC, and you can just easily carry it with you every day in your small backpack or a sling or a shoulder bag. And I actually had a lot of fun with this lens because, well, it gives you that 35 millimeter equivalent. So when you're on the street, you get that natural, field of view through your camera. And especially I really love to shoot through the viewfinder of the ZFC. I just close up the screen, so it looks like an analog camera, and I really like to shoot through the viewfinder. You're closer to the action. So would I recommend the 24 1.7? Yes, I think so. I think it's the best lens to start with. If you are buying the ZFC, I would definitely go for just the body and take the 24 1.7. The ZFC with the 24 1.7, it's a really good combo as an everyday camera, especially if you're looking for retro looks. And well, hopefully Nikon will release the SE version of this lens, so it will look even better on the ZFC and will give you that more retro immersion. So I hope you did enjoy this video and the pictures that this lens produces, and the combo of the ZFC and the 24 1.7, which is really good. I really recommend it, and yeah, keep on shooting and see you on the next videos.